Set in Yorkshire 1898, this movie tells a story of a grieving woman and her son, who moved back to the unoccupied house of her ex-husband, who recently found dead, but they discover that they are not alone inside the house. This movie ambitiously sets out to blend gothic horror with psychological drama, but manages to stumble into a pit of mediocrity. The premise sounds promising, but the execution is dragged down by a pacing so lethargic that it feels like the film itself is haunted by a curse of slowness. The narrative meanders, with long stretches where nothing of significance occurs, making the film feel like an endless setup for a punchline that never quite lands. The monster, which should be the centerpiece of tension, is introduced far too late, and with far too little impact, reducing the horror element to an afterthought. The characters are as thinly sketched as the plot. Grace and her son Charles lack depth and complexity. Grace's grief and Charles's loneliness are themes that are mentioned, but never explored with any insight or emotional resonance. The supporting cast does little to flesh out the world around the protagonists, leaving the audience with characters who are difficult to care about or relate to. The interactions between them, filled with period-appropriate dialogue, come off as stiff and unconvincing, distancing viewers from the story. The movie attempts to create a chilling gothic atmosphere, but this is where the film reveals its modest budget's constraints. The monster, which is kept largely in shadow to hide its lackluster CGI, fails to inspire fear or dread. Instead of building suspense through the unseen, the film seems to use darkness to mask its inability to deliver on the horror front. The scares, when they do come, are predictable, and lack the innovation or intensity to make them memorable. The gothic aesthetic, while visually appealing at times, cannot compensate for the absence of a truly engaging or terrifying narrative. The cinematography tries to evoke the gloom of Victorian England, but the overuse of darkness leads to scenes that are more confusing than atmospheric. The sound design, which should have been a key element in building tension, is forgettable, missing opportunities to heighten the film's mood. The score is unremarkable, doing little to elevate the viewing experience. This movie could have been a haunting tale of grief, loss, and the literal monsters we face in our darkest times. Instead, it's a film that struggles with its identity, unsure if it wants to be a psychological study or a traditional monster movie. The result is a disjointed experience that neither frightens nor moves its audience. This film will leave you feeling more exhausted than exhilarated. It's not worth to spend time to watch this. We do not recommend this movie at all.